All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Marcia Hovey. I'm the Executive Director of CADRE, which you can see on your screen is Collaborating Agencies Disaster Relief Effort. We are the VOAD for Santa Clara County. The VOAD is the Disaster Coordination Group for Nonprofits. I think Anna has already given you some of the instructions for today, putting your name in the chat box with your organization name, changing your name on your picture so that it reflects your first name and your organization. Today, the access coordinator will be me. So if you need assistance with running or using the Otter AI artificial intelligence transcription software or the Zoom live transcription software, just private message me in the chat and I will help you get connected to that. And please use the reaction features, use the chat as much as you can during this session so that we can capture all of your comments and just make it a more rich experience for everyone. I'll turn it back to Anna now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Swardensky. I am CADRE's Director of Planning, Training, and Community Resilience. On your screen are our workshop objectives for this morning. We are here to help you get a better understanding of how our government entities are organized here in California using something called the Standardized Emergency Management System, and more specifically, the Incident Command System and how that is structured. And then really a good portion of today will give you an opportunity to kind of learn how to embrace these principles and structures within your own nonprofit and practice using it. So we hope that you enjoy today's program. We've got some fun things planned to try and bring it alive for you. In terms of the agenda of how we're going to do that, Marcia is going to kick us off in just a few moments with a little bit of history and background on SEMS, NIMS, and ICS, and she'll tell you what those acronyms all stand for. We'll talk a little bit about translating this to nonprofits, and then we'll get into having some fun and playing out some of the concepts and terminology. There will be throughout today's program opportunities for you to ask questions. As Marcia said, please use the chat box to the greatest extent, and we'll be monitoring that along the way. Before I get too far, I want to introduce two other of our colleagues that are here today. Heather Lee is with San Francisco CARD. Let me start with her.
Oh, and you're just going to let me introduce myself. Darn. I'm Heather Lee. I'm with SF CARD. The CARD stands for something along the same lines as CADRE, Community Agencies Responding to Disaster. We all have a somewhat common origin story way back in the far reaches before VOADs were a thing. And the other more interesting thing that relates to you all today is I'm the Community Preparedness Liaison for the Bay Area Urban Areas Security Initiative, which is just government money for preparedness as far as we're concerned. And I am acting as the registrar for that. So at some point I'll turn my video off so you don't have to watch me squint while I work on doing registrations that I should have done last week, but I got busy. But if you ever need anything, you need to find your emergency manager, you want to connect with other organizations, you want to connect across the 12 counties or farther, it turns out, just shoot me a link. I'll throw my email in the chat box. It's pretty obvious, but I'll do that anyway. Thanks, Anna.
All right, thanks, Heather. And the other colleague I'd like to introduce this morning is Luna, but you popped off my screen. Luna, can you turn your camera back on?
That's on.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, you just fell off my screen. So Luna, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell folks how you're connected to our project.
Yeah, hi, I'm Luna Mohammed. I'm the Community Resilience Coordinator for Monterey County Office of Emergency Services. My job is to develop a community resilience plan for the county and implement some projects that help make our community stronger. One of those projects is what we are doing right now, having sessions like this, thanks to CADRE and BATEP being able to provide nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and pretty much anyone in the community information on how to better manage disasters and better prepare for disasters, it builds our resilience as a community. So that's kind of how I got along in this project. I started with them right when I came on board, and it's been an amazing project. Thank you, Anna, for continuing to run this amazing program.
Sure. Thanks, Luna. And I want to do a little shout out. I know we've got folks that registered, and I'm seeing, I did a quick scan across the login. We've got folks from throughout the state, all the way up in Shasta, Tehama. Mike, give us a wave. I see your camera on. We've got some of our government partners in different emergency services offices here locally in Santa Clara County. There's lots of the nonprofits that we've been working with throughout COVID. So thank you guys for taking the time to log in today. And we know we have folks from really all across the state of California. So please share with us your experiences and your successes and challenges with today's concepts freely in the chat box. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Marcia for the first segment of our program.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give you kind of the background of what the incident command system is, how it came about, and how emergency management kind of started in California. So you'll see on your screen two circles, the standardized emergency management system and the national incident management system. And then in the center, the intersection is the incident command system, which is what we're talking about today. That is the one element that is exactly the same in both of these policy guides. Now, the standardized emergency management system came along after the 1991 Oakland Hills fire. Does anyone remember why we have a standardized emergency management system? A senator's house burned down. That's why. And there were a lot of things that were not standardized with the fire departments at that time. And so the senator said, we need to have a common structure, passed the bill, and SEMS was born. Every organization in California is supposed to use SEMS and NIMS as well, as they work together. And there is no money to implement SEMS or NIMS or ICS. It's an unfunded mandate. If the government wants to qualify for disaster services funding, they have to use ICS, SEMS, and NIMS to be compliant, or they won't get reimbursed. Let's see. What's next here? Let's go ahead to the next slide. The National Incident Management System was born after September 11th because the rest of the country did not have any kind of a plan in place. So they modeled SEMS, but they took it a bit farther. They have a bunch of training requirements for the different emergency operations center positions. They have a preparedness component to help people get ready, and it's SEMS on steroids, really, but they both use the same terminology, and that's really important as we go forward, is that we're all talking about the same things with the same words so that communication is clear. So the incident command system was not developed through SEMS. It was started way before that in the 70s by the fire service, and it's a people management tool. It's designed to create an organizational structure, assign different roles and responsibilities pre-event so that people can be trained on how to perform different functions that are required to fight a fire. It gives them some accountability, because if it's your role to hook the hose to the hydrant, then if you don't do that, everyone knows why the hose isn't hooked to the hydrant, because you didn't do it. So it's really important. Everybody works together. It's a well-tuned machine. This chain of command is a formal communication flow. So there is somebody in charge, and then there are people that report to that person, and there are people that report to the people under them. And then because of those roles and responsibilities, different people have authority to make decisions. And again, I already mentioned the common terminology that you're using the same words to describe the same things. So what it does is it brings order to chaos, from chaos. And it does not, how do I say this? It doesn't always require 5, 10, 20 people to run incident command systems. Sometimes it can just be one. And Anna's going to demonstrate that in a little while. All right, next slide. The personnel that are part of the incident command system don't necessarily fall in rank order as they do in your day-to-day jobs. It's the person that has the most experience. And so you might be the first person to get to an emergency event, and so you take charge. But when someone with more qualifications comes, they can relieve you from your command, essentially, because we want the most experienced people in the high places so that we do the best job overall. Next slide. So that one person is the incident commander. It's the only position in the ICS organization chart that must be filled because there has to be someone formally in charge. If two of you show up and you just start working side by side, at some point, someone needs to be the authority, especially if you have a disagreement. So it's best to make that decision early on who's in charge and who we're going to have making the decisions. And let's see, they must. I already said this part, that's why. So again, if you're not the most qualified person, when someone else gets there, you're going to turn it over to them. In your organization, you might be the incident commander. If it's a bigger incident, police or fire or a community emergency response team person might be there and have that role, a more formal role. But the whole idea is that we just bring this organization, and sometimes we talk about this like herding cats because everyone wants to go off and do their own thing. So here's a little video to highlight this point.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He was the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here, and if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
You see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job, but when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He was the first cat herder in our family.
Sorry about that, folks.
I just love that video because it truly does feel like that. At the beginning of every disaster, it's chaos. And you have people running every different direction, trying to do what they think is the right thing to do. And as long as we all agree that there is a system and that we fall within that system, knowing our roles and responsibilities, you can bring that herd into town with success. If you don't have it, there'll be those wild short hairs all over the place. Next slide. So the incident command system starts basically with a simple organization chart like this one. There are 5 different functions. The incident commander, who leads it, the operations section, who are the doers. They're the ones that are putting out fires or treating injuries or turning off the water because there was a broken pipe, any of those doing activities, that's the operations section. The planning section tells it, so they're the ones that are gathering all of the information about the emergency. Maybe what's happening if it's in your organization at your building, maybe you're getting information from the outside on how bad it is everywhere else, or if it's just you. But you're also doing things like doing a head count to see if everyone, if they evacuated a building, did they all evacuate, or who's missing. If you have people unaccounted for, you can do things like, ask people whether or not they were out on assignment. Maybe they were sick today. So just trying to account for people and then just document what's being done for future reference. And you can always go back later and then do what they call an after action report. The logistics section are the getters. So anything that the operations section, really any of them, but it's mostly operations that needs things to help stop the problem. Logistics can make signs, they can get you more staff. That's one of their jobs, is providing personnel. They can get food and water and make sure that everybody on your staff is properly taken care of. And then finance pays for it all. Pretty simple. But they also are in charge of injuries and illness and insurance and all of those other things that need to be well documented during the event so that they can process it after. Next slide. And there's a span of control that is identified within the incident command system. It's been practiced a lot. And so at the fire service level, they say that no more than 7 people can report to one person. And if you look at the top screenshot with just the incident commander and a whole bunch of people, those boxes represent functions. So there might be several people working in a function like a first aid team or let's just say first aid team. But if you had the whole first aid team, maybe it was all of those boxes and they're all trying to talk to you as the supervisor, you're not going to be able to keep your eye on the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to make the problems go away. So you want to deputize people to kind of be the middlemen, so that a series of people, and this is the second screenshot, so that there is a middleman, so that there are fewer people talking to you, and then the people down the chain of command then would talk to those deputized people, and that way it calms the top. So maybe you think about all of the work that the duck's doing underneath the surface of the water, but up at the top it's pretty smooth, and that's what you want at the incident commander level, is for it to be pretty smooth so that you can make good decisions with a clear mind. And the next slide. So through the standardized emergency management system, there are levels, different levels in the chain of command. So the structures in place from the field level response through the local government to our state Office of Emergency Services region, and then to the state itself, and then to the federal government. And every one of those levels in that chain of command and that communication structure uses the incident command system and all of the same terminology and all of the same roles and responsibilities, so that whatever 2 levels are talking, they are speaking the same language. Next slide. Now this is the local government level, so that's every city is the local government level, and their responsibilities are to proclaim the emergency, activate the local emergency operations center. They support the field response. They don't tell the firefighters or the police officers what to do. they just say, what do you need to get this problem taken care of? And then they work to do that. And then they also request additional assistance from the level above them, which is the operational area, and I'll get to that in a second. They restore city services, and one of the other big roles of local government is to keep the rest of the community informed if it's a big event. So if you were talking just about your office, your organization, one of your roles would be to keep the rest of the organization informed on what you were doing and make sure that they're okay too. Okay, next slide. So the operational area, it's defined in the Emergency Services Act, which is kind of the Bible of emergency management in California. It's an intermediate level of the state emergency services organization, consists of a county and all its political subdivisions within the county, which include cities, districts, special districts, public agencies, and local governments. So school districts are part of it, and all of you are part of it, even though you're not listed there. I think we need to try to change that because you are part of every city and every county, and you are part of the operational area, even if not specifically named right here. And the role of the operational area, so this is in our county, it's the County Office of Emergency Management is the operational area coordinator. And their role is to coordinate information with all of those entities that we just talked about. The resources, if resources are scarce, they prioritize who's going to get them. And we saw that play out with N95 masks during COVID, that they all went to the hospitals, even though there were others that needed them. And so we had to go out and find them ourselves. And then they help to set the priorities if there are multiple or entities within the operational area that are having this emergency going on at the same time. They help them to sort out the priorities and make sure that everything gets taken care of. And the next slide. And if the operational area doesn't have the resources within our county to support the event, maybe they need more firefighters, or maybe they need more N95 masks, or anything that we need more of in order to make the problem go away, or at least stabilize it, then the operational area reaches out to our coastal region, which is a regional emergency operations center. It happens to be co-located at the State Emergency Operations Center right now. So go on to the next slide. My last slide. The State Operations Center is located in Sacramento. It's not really Sacramento. Where is it? It's just outside of Sacramento.
Rancho Cordova.
Thank you, Rancho Cordova. And I just headed Sacramento, and then I know where to go. But they're coordinating all of it. So if it's a major event and it's covering multiple counties, the REOC, the regional center, will start to coordinate that. And then if they can't get enough resources within those counties that are being impacted, then they start coordinating with the State Operations Center. If it's more than one county involved, and actually a lot of times when it's just one county, all of these emergency operations centers turn their lights on and they start to monitor, because the more that you're prepared to respond, the faster you can respond. And so we have a really good system in place. And just finally, I'll put this link in the chat. If you want to take the formal incident command system training, the one that FEMA identifies as a training requirement for everyone that's part of emergency response, it's called IS 100. And I'll put the link in the chat. If you've never taken a FEMA course before through their independent study program, you also have to register for a FEMA identification number. And the link will show you in the left menu of the site that how to get that number, and then you can take the course. And then you'll get a certificate and you'll be on your way. There are hundreds of courses you could take if you want to. But this, what we're doing now is we've taken that IS 100 and we've brought it to what's applicable for the community-based organizations in Santa Clara County. And that's it for me. Back to Anna.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. So, you know, the point of today's workshop was really about helping you all to understand as nonprofits how to use this set of principles and systems. And Marcia, I'm going to turn over the waiting room to you, okay? Because we still have people logging in, and I missed a few. They were waiting there for a moment. So how can CDOs embrace incident command system in your own planning? So this is a way that you can use these kinds of principles and this organization kind of chart as a way to organize your staff, as a way to communicate with satellite offices perhaps, or maybe you have field staff as well in your programs. And it's also helps to build leadership skills as you look at a team approach and you kind of embrace these concepts of span of control. So using the chat box right now, tell me if you are currently using incident command system in your community program. Let's see, or give me a thumbs up or a clap if you'd prefer to use your emojis, your Zoom emojis. I'm seeing some no's in the box. One thumbs up. Who gave me a thumbs up? Larry, you're using that. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Larry. Jennifer, Morgan Hill, OES, wonderful. Let's see who else. I'm gonna scroll across a couple of screens. Norma is our Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety. She's also got her thumbs up. And I'm seeing a lot of our nonprofits with no's. That's why you're here today. Okay, so we'll keep going forward. And now we're gonna kind of get into what I hope is some fun little examples for you that may resonate. So how do we take this incident command system and recast it for nonprofits? First of all, you can use it as kind of a thinking tool to help you understand how to think through an event, how to fulfill your own organization mission, and mobilize your own assets effective and efficiently. You can use it as a bridge or a lifeline to be able to connect with partners in our government entities and with professional emergency responders. If you're using the same terminology or you're kind of talking, hey, I have a logistics request because I'm a food provider and this is what I need, that's going to resonate much more quickly with your government representative because they're like, oh, I know what to do with this request or this communication. That's an example. As I said before, it's an opportunity for you to build leadership skills within your own staff. As Marcia said, the first one on the scene is the one who gets that in charge role. And maybe it's not always your executive director or one of your senior managers. It's whoever shows up first in your building the morning that something might be happening, and they get all the little responsibilities and the roles until more people from your organization show up and you start to divvy those things up. It's also a way to look at this in an economic sense of how do you build capacity and make sure that you're really leveraging all of the resources and capacities you have as a nonprofit entity by kind of organizing your thought process and your team and your resources in this way. So Marcia had talked about, the incident command system being strong enough and a standard all the way across the country from our local cities all the way up to our federal government, but it is also something that's flexible enough to be just one person. So let's take an example of how does this work if it's just one person in kind of a little bit more lighthearted way. And I want to throw credit out to our colleagues in Alameda County, VOAD, and just to the northeast of Santa Clara County for this example. So I'm going to walk you through some slides real quick. You are home alone. You're cooking dinner for your guests. You're busy cooking and preparing. You're setting up food, preparing the food to cook. And then, you have a fire. Now what? You need to put out the fire. Woohoo! Okay, that's under control, but you're not finished yet. Now you have to figure out what you're going to do because the fire changed your plans. Your dinner is ruined. You need to let your guests know, and you need to clean up the mess you just made. So first you let people know what's happening. The fire's out, and you tell the fire department just so they're not sending the engines over. Little tangent, remember to know the non-emergency number of your local fire department. And you need to now get the supplies you need to clean up the mess. And as you're getting your supplies, you need to protect yourself because some of the things that you made a mess with might be a little bit hazardous. And you need to protect others. So you're marking off if you don't want your kids running in the kitchen and slipping on the floor. Now you need to figure out what it all costs. So how is this one person ICS? Well, you're taking responsibility. You were the incident commander. You're the only one who was there. You put out the fire and you started cleaning that up. That's your operations section. You had to get your fire extinguisher and your mop and supplies. That's logistics. You were keeping others safe. That's an offshoot of your management team with safety and security. You had to work with others. If you have a liaison role, you had to let folks know what was happening. It could be your liaison and or your public information. Your planning, you had to choose a new dinner and let folks know. That was your planning section. And someone needs to pay for it and figure out the cost. That's your finance section. Do you see how that works? All right, give me a thumbs up. Did you like that one? Wave at us. Happy, happy, happy. All right, let's look at another example. Imagine you were on the Titanic when it hit an iceberg. You know the ship will definitely sink. You know there's not enough lifeboats. You have 2.5 hours. What do you do? Incident command system to the rescue. I'm going to stop my video for just a moment. Oh, sorry, stop my virtual background for just a moment. And I'm going to show you something we built. These are hang tags. It's a little tool and it goes on a clipboard like this. And now I can, did you guys see that? In my presenter window. Okay, so we built this little tool that you guys can use. Let me get rid of, hold on one moment, folks. There we go. Now I can get rid of all these funny windows. So we built this hang tag, set of hang tags that go with the incident command system that you can use in your own organization to kind of give you like a little cheat sheet or Cliff Notes version of the incident command system. I'm going to put in the chat box right now the link to these little badges that you see on your screen. And if at least one or two of you want to download that or pull that up on your screen, we can play with this with the next example, okay? So let's go back to the Titanic. What are you going to do? I'm going to call out, everybody pay attention. I'm going to assign you some roles right now from Incident Command. So Erica with Youth Science Institute, if you turn your camera on and unmute yourself, you get to be our incident commander this morning. Let me see you, Erica. Are you paying attention? Can you say hello? Erica. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna assign everything else and then I'm gonna ask for a volunteer for the incident commander. So Blanca with our County Office of Education. Blanca, if you'll unmute, turn your camera on, you get to be our planning section chief. Marie with Vegilution. You are our operations lead. Patrick with Northeast Medical. You're our logistics lead. I see Patrick's camera is already on, so he can just unmute himself. Thank you, Marie. I see your camera came on. Ryan with Martha's Kitchen. You're our finance and admin person. Melissa with San Jose Conservation Corps. You're our safety and security lead. So if you guys will unmute yourselves, and let me see if I can get an incident commander to raise their hand and volunteer, since I wasn't able to get Erica to unmute. Who wants to be our incident commander? Come on, guys.
We'll help you, really.
We're going to help you. We're all going to help you. Oh,
right. I will be the incident commander.
Awesome. Thank you, Isabel. And Isabel, you are with San Jose Conservation Corps. Is that correct? All right. Wonderful. Okay. So you're our incident commander. We're on the Titanic. The ship's going to sink. We don't have enough lifeboats. You have 2.5 hours. What is the first thing you're going to do?
I guess
assemble your team. A hint: assemble your team.
Assemble my team. Assemble my team. So get everybody together. Get some communication going. Start bouncing ideas off each other of how we can support and help everyone around us, and I guess observe and look around us to see what's happening, what's needed, what supplies we have, and try to gather those things together.
Awesome. Thanks, Isabel. Okay, I'm going to go to operations. Who'd I give my operations lead to? I just lost my piece of paper. Who's my operations lead?
It's me from Vegilution. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Thank you, Marie. What do you think the first things you're going to need to do are?
Probably within the team, understand who logistics is and planning. Check out our safety. It's loud here. I'm in our warehouse, so excuse the sound. Take a look at get an understanding of how many lifeboats we actually do have, and probably work with the logistics person to figure that out, or maybe the planning person. Let's see. Also see what other resources we have that can help save people. What else? What else am I missing here?
Yep, that's a really great start, Marie. Let's throw it back to planning. Our planning lead is Blanca.
Yes, so the first thing probably we'll do is just to get together with my planning team, make sure that they are all on board, that they know what is information. If not, then probably ask them to go and assess how bad the situation is, collect data, organize in a way that we know what will be the first priorities or the top priorities or tasks that we need to focus, and who will be probably coordinating those tasks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Blanca. Sure. And let's go on to Patrick with logistics. What do you think you're going to be focusing on?
For me, probably work and coordinate with the planning team to figure out what we need. Once we figure that out, try to get those things. Maybe the life jackets, the lifeboats, stuff like that.
Okay, wonderful. Ryan, Martha's Kitchen. Ryan, are you with us? What do you think you need to be concerned about with finance and admin? Ryan. Oh, I don't see Ryan. Okay, Melissa, are you safety with us? Okay.
I'm here. I guess I'm not sure. I would identify potential hazard situations. Work with those that need to be informed. And I'm not sure what else.
Okay, that's awesome. That's a great start, Melissa. So let me ask other folks on the call today, use your chat box. What else do you think of? Maybe start it off with the position that you think there might be some consideration, and what other ideas do you have? So if you think like the incident commander ought to be thinking about or reviewing something, or you want logistics, suggest logistics. There's a black rectangle on the side of my screen. Right? Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Is that better? Okay, Katie, great comment. Somebody needs to be thinking about access and functional needs of the passengers. What other ideas come to mind for all of you? Think about those functions. Grab that link and look at some of those badges. See if any ideas come to mind.
This is Marcia. I just wanted to comment again on what Katie said, and that every single person in the ICS structure should be thinking about that, the access and functional needs, and that's been an important part of emergency planning in the last few years for sure, is that it's not one person assigned to be responsible. It's everyone needs to be aware and address any issues that are impacting folks with access and functional needs. So that's a really good call.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Katie, for that. Okay, I see some great comments in the box. Bob is saying, announce what's going on and what directions to give. Greg, start looking for stuff on the ship that can float. Mike saying, who should go where and why? Our planning leads need to be thinking about that along with safety. Organizing folks so we're not panicking. Asking children and women to get together in a specific area. Using a checklist to coordinate a plan for all passengers. Alicia, come off mute for us. Tell us a little bit more about that thought.
Good morning. I think it's just accountability, having a list of all the passenger, the crew, how many people are in each room. So having a checklist of how many people they need to account for.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Alicia, you're with Community Health Partnership, right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, you want to go ahead and unmute and share some thoughts? Katie's saying, find pre-existing trusted group of leaders. I'm not sure if you're able to unmute, Katie. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were referring to me or someone else.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking that when people are panicking and, in a life or death situation, I, as some random person who has decided to take over this role, am not going to be the best person to communicate to those people. The people who, they've already built trusting relationships with are going to be the ones best job of communicating with them and convincing them to go along with our group plan rather than making their own chaotic choices that might seem best for them as individuals.
Great. Awesome comment. Marcia, your hand is up.
This is Marcia, and sometimes you can't find those trusted sources, particularly when it's in a diverse group like this. That's, none of them knew each other before they came on, but one of the ways that you can establish authority is by having on some kind of a vest or some kind of an official looking identification so that people turn and listen to you. And that's just a real easy way to, if every officer on the ship, or maybe it's the kitchen staff, if they put on yellow vests that say emergency response, all of a sudden they have more authority than they did before. And then if you look around the ship and you see a bunch of yellow vests, that can give a sense of calm, that there are a lot of people that are part of the plan that are here working.
Awesome. Greg Bernard, Rebuilding Together. You want to unmute and tell us your thoughts? It's kind of a nice segue from what Marcia said. You had commented about organizing people.
Yeah, I would just look for people who have, I mean, you know, this is an extreme example, right? Because people are going to be panicking. So, but if you could find people that have expertise in one area, to just group them together to think about best possible outcomes, that would, you know, reduce panic somewhat and keep people sort of like motivated to find a solution.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Greg. Harry, you talked a little bit about communications in your comment. You want to unmute? Harry Guy with our Los Altos CERT program.
It was just one of the first things I do, I guess, from a planning and incident command standpoint, is make sure you send out that distress signal. See if you can get any help. If you don't have enough lifeboats, you're going to need help, or you're going to lose lives, which is, of course, what happened.
Okay. Thank you, Harry. And I think the last person I'm going to call out, Mike Ferreira with Shasta Tehama, one of our sister VOADs. Mike, talk to us about your planning comment.
When a ship is going to be going down, there's going to be water coming in. The water is going to go to the bottom of the boat. And so we don't want people at the bottom of the boat. We already know that we don't have enough lifeboats. So we've got to start coming up with a plan for who's going to go into the boats, because if you don't have a plan, the boats fill up unplanned.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so this was another one of our, oh, Catherine, wait, before I keep going, Catherine, go ahead and unmute and talk to us about your comment.
So at CHP, we kind of have our own incident command system, and what Dolores has done is she's not just chosen the leaders based on their seniority or their title, but tried to actually assign folks who have an innate ability to fulfill the role. So for example, I do the public information, I do communication, and that's my job, and I'm good at it, and not shy about talking to people, and I'm not shy about telling people what to do. And there are other people who are much more organized and can procure or get stuff. I'm not very good at that. And so she put a lot of thought when she developed her system as to who can do it naturally and do it without a lot of resources, you know, a lot of assistance. Great. And it made us feel more comfortable about our jobs. We're like kind of not excited, but we are confident in our ability not to result in anybody dying.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Catherine. So here's what we came up with as we were thinking through the incident command system tasks with the Titanic from our Alameda County VOAD peers. So the incident commander would take charge, choose team leaders, come up with a plan. The planning team would focus on some timeline and communication of the plan. Ops team might be assembling rafts, organizing and directing people. The logistics team would be getting the supplies. Greg talked about this with
I'm on Zoom.
With the pole, anything that might float. Admin and finance would be looking at keeping track of anything, maybe not so much with the ship going down, but with safety, our safety person would be really important in this scenario. So really good thoughts. Thanks for your feedback on that. We wanted to give you an example that kind of felt like a disaster, but didn't feel like a disaster we've all been living with the pandemic or with fires or an earthquake. We wanted to give you an example that hopefully wasn't too stressful. So let's talk about, remember how I said you could use this in a different way of building leadership skills within your organization. Let's look at another nonprofit example of how could we use the incident command system if we were planning a volunteer recognition event? Okay, so what do you think management needs to do? And I would say, go ahead for this segment. We're going to just kind of do this as a group conversation, just like we were doing for the Titanic. So raise your hand or put something in the chat and we'll talk as a group. I know there's 45 of us, but we could do this. So what do you think management needs to do? They're going to be leading. So if you're thinking about putting together a volunteer recognition event, what are some of the things that management would start off doing? Okay, Greg's saying leading, find a date and a budget. Other folks, I'm going to give you time. I know you don't have to type in the chat box. You can raise your hand and hopefully I'll see you and I can call on you to speak aloud. Larry, go ahead and unmute. Tell us what you're thinking.
Just gather your team and make assignments. Figure out, and you may start with a small team and then expand that. But who would be the best one to arrange the logistics to get space and chairs and catering and whatnot, and who should be the master of ceremonies? Who's going to kind of be the PIO for this thing? Just basically build your foundation for the operation.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Larry, for kicking us off. There's a lot of really great comments in the chat. So let's move forward into one of the other positions, planning. There was a few comments that went into planning. This obviously is the first task. So let's see. Mike, or actually, let me go ahead and call on Linda. Linda, go ahead and unmute yourself. Tell us what you're thinking. What would planning need to do?
So basically, identifying any special volunteers that you want to recognize that stand out from the crowd, that have done, have gone above and beyond to help.
Okay, great. Rita, go ahead and come off mute.
Hi, thank you. I think we would, first of all, budget, who's going to pay for what, how much money do we have? And then identify, secure a location that is large enough to fit the X amount of people that we want to invite, especially if it's still during this very challenging times. How are we going to gather? Are we going to sit in there? Is it going to be buffet or are we going to serve the food? So many details. Just to ensure that the safety team that is going to be acknowledged and recognized can continue to stay safe.
Awesome, wonderful. Thanks, Rita. Okay, Blanca, you were talking about the when, where, and how.
Yeah, so they need to come up with a date or what are the best dates to the event, where, how many people are coming, how we're going to do that. That means understand the task that needs to be involved in order to complete that, and also who will be doing that.
Okay, great. You guys rocked that one, the planning aspect. How about operations? What do you think the operations folks need to focus on? And what are their responsibilities going to be for a volunteer recognition event? Raise your hand or type something in the chat as we get underway. What would operations people be doing?
This is Marcia. Just remember that this planning structure goes all the way into the implementation of the event.
Ooh, that was your hint.
That was the hint. So what's happening the day of? Because that would be operations.
Mike, go ahead and tell us your thoughts. What would ops be doing? Mike Ferreira, there you go.
Yep. Sound reinforcement and video. Are we going to be projecting pictures of the people? Are we going to be, now I do this for big events, so that one was an easy one for me. But what is this event going to look like to the people that are watching? Are they going to be able to hear? Are we going to need ASL people? to interpret our how do
Awesome.
we make this best for the audience that we're going to have out there and for the people that we're going to recognize.
Okay, and those examples are great, Mike. They're all things we need to talk about, and some of those are actually logistics functions, perhaps. But let me call on Blanca again. Blanca said a simple word: execute. So with operations, these, Blanca,
Yes.
you want to share? Go ahead.
Execute the plan.
Mm-hmm. So that would be some of the things you see on your screen. The operations team is going to be the ones that are actually going to set up on the day of the event. They're going to be welcoming guests, maybe the check-in table or the Zoom waiting room like we did today. They're orchestrating the planned program. They might be the folks that are actually the MCs. Remember, Larry said early on, we need to pick who's going to run the event or be the speakers, and they get that lovely task of dismantling and cleaning up as well, right? That's your ops team. So creating an agenda for the big day, meeting to get everyone on the same page, executing the plan. Wonderful. So MC, you want to come off mute? Let's see, MC.
Hi.
Hi, you're with EAH Housing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us your thoughts. What do you think ought to be happening here and by whom?
Just for the big day, I would create an agenda, and everybody should have their own their own task for that day, and then finally have that big meeting to get everybody on the same page. So everybody can also voice out what they're going to do on that day and how they're going to do it. And, lastly, to execute the plan. And if there are any hiccups, just to prepare for that too.
Okay, thanks for that. That's wonderful. Okay. Yes, and Larry's commenting, until the day of the event, the planning section is often the busiest people on the job. That's especially true for this type of an event. Okay, so let's go on to logistics. What kind of things would logistics need to focus on? Mike gave us some hints: sound, microphones. What else would logistics focus on? If we were in person, what would you focus on? If we're in a virtual volunteer recognition, what would logistics need to focus on? Because boy, we're not really getting out of our virtual world anytime soon, and we probably all need to recognize our staff and volunteers. So what would logistics focus on? Feel free to come off mute or raise your hand. Yes, Larry's saying a reliable virtual platform. That's a first starter for virtual. And you know what logistics also needs to do? I had to do this morning. How many times does Zoom upgrade and update their features, and you need to test everything, make sure it actually is working the way you think it's going to work. Making sure the back end of technology is working smoothly. That's exactly what happened for me this morning. I updated my Zoom, Linda, and I couldn't find my video windows. I'm like, where'd all those cameras go? Okay, Norma's got to run off. Other thoughts about what logistics would do? Rich, go ahead and speak aloud for us. Rich, with Japantown Prepared.
I was thinking about an in-person event. Aside from the location, you have tables, chairs, canopies. If it's going to be hot outside, restroom facilities, parking. Things that allow people to get to the event, participate in the event, and then leave the event.
Awesome, thank you. Rita, go ahead and unmute as well. Rita, Aurora Health Group.
Well, just like everybody's saying, I think you first have to have your core team and who's going to do what, who's going to set up, who's going to be at the registration table, who's going to be in the kitchen, and what is that going to look like? Are we going to have a buffet table as serving people, and who's going to serve? And then set up the tables, the chairs, tablecloths? Are we going to have centerpieces? Are we going to have decorations? And all those beautiful things that make a great event. And then, you know, pick up the plates so that people continue to network and enjoy themselves in a clean table. Serve coffee, dessert, who's going to clean up? At the end of the day, when everybody goes home, who stays to clean up and put the place back in order before we turn it in? And all those great things. So yeah, it's assembling your core team and who's going to do what, I think is key.
Okay. Look how like wonderfully confident all of you are, like you've done this before. I'm wondering if any of you have actually used Incident Command System to plan one of your events. Give us a thumbs up if you've actually used these structures. You can use, I saw Larry's hand go up on his video camera. You can use your emoji, or you can, you know, wave at us. Okay, I'm seeing some of you do this. You can keep putting up your symbols or put a note in the chat box. Marcia has her hand up. What do you want to share with us, Marcia?
Yeah, when Rita was talking about, she had some questions about, are there going to be centerpieces? Are there going to be this? And which section should have that answer for you? Because logistics doesn't have to decide that. There's another group that decides that.
Ooh, planning. Process.
Yeah. So if you have those kind of questions, then planning might not be on top of their job. But that, you know, but that's how that accountability, it's like, I don't have an answer to this question, so I can't do my job. I need to go back to the person who is responsible for that and get the decision from them. So that was good.
And who would planning have to check in with perhaps to make that decision? Who else in the team would planning have to check in with?
Operations and logistics.
Mm-hmm. One more I'm thinking of. Who might make the decision, or what might that, yeah, management.
Person that's setting the tone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So what does finance and admin do? So what kind of things would they be tracking for an event like this when we're doing the planning and when we're doing the execution of it? What would be the responsibilities for this team? Budget, yep. Are they given a budget, or they have to draft a budget? All that's what has to be talked about. Ensuring we don't go over budget. You're right, Rita, that's awesome.
This is Marcia. How will you know that you're not going over budget?
Mm-hmm.
So people need to be giving you receipts or getting your approval before they buy things.
Right. Oh, and whether or not we're going to fundraise as a part of this. Good point, Katie. Blanca's saying we need to control spending, put controls on spending, paying out the service providers. Marie with Edulution, anything more you want to say?
I noted that they would be paying out service providers, so they would have to also probably control the communication with service providers or any other third parties. So you have to get supplies or services from.
Okay, thanks, Marie. Okay, so here's what some of the finance administration responsibilities might be. They might be the ones setting a budget with the planning team. So as you guys were saying, handling and processing expenses, tracking registration, receipts, record keeping for next year's event. Maybe they'll have to create a final accounting of all the costs that went in, and they're kind of the main record keepers. Okay. How about safety and security? What are they going to be responsible for? Anything come to mind if you have a recognition event? Let's say it's an in-person recognition event. What would safety and security need to be thinking about and planning? Did we stump you? There we go. Oh, Katie, I love it. Masks and distancing requirements. The never-ending blue tape on the ground, right? Okay, Mike, determine if the right people are coming. Safety, perimeter, traffic management, emergency exits. Awesome. I have to share with you guys, I had a little girl in my neighborhood, and over the summertime we were talking about setting up a lemonade stand, and she's 7 years old, and her first comment was, I can put the blue tape down. That's what our little ones are saying when they're going to do a summer lemonade stand. They've already got that social distancing stuff. All right, emergency plans. What kind of emergency plans are you thinking of, Rich?
Fire, earthquake, any other disasters that may come up, crime possibly.
During our volunteer event, we got a plan for all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Blanca, you were talking about exits, I think? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sure that we have, and those are working.
Very good, very good. All right, so if we're in person, maybe you have a check-in booth. You know how sometimes at events you are able to do a coat check or a purse check. You might have a place for folks to store valuables. You're monitoring safety, just like Rich and Blanca were talking about. No one mentioned, but if we're serving food, somebody's got to be thinking about food safety issues of whether it's out on the tables or in the back kitchen area. Are we doing all these kinds of things? Okay, so we've got one more position, the the liaison. Oh, I have a liaison. Marcia and I thought, this is the schmoozer. What does the liaison need to do?
Keep up open communication between all the groups. Make sure that everybody's on the same page. Make sure everybody's got the instructions kind of provided to them, what needs to be done. So liaison is a very, very important part of the whole organization.
Thank you, Mohan. Mohan, what group are you with?
I'm with the Sitco Homes. I was very interested in your presentation because I'm concerned about the safety of the people, and we are building fire-resistant homes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, Mohan.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Who else? Who else would we need to schmooze with if we're planning a volunteer recognition event? Any ideas? The media. Great one, Katie. Yes. How about where you're going to be getting your supplies? Elected officials and the press. Oh, yes. We have them. We want them at our events, right? Local government. Let's see. Jennifer, I think Norma had to jump off. Jennifer still with us? Yeah. Hopefully that was music to your ears, Jennifer. Local government reps, sponsors for the event. You guys are rocking this. Okay, so a liaison would be working with our vendors, our suppliers, maintaining relationships with our property owners, managers, neighbors. Make sure, right? If we're going to have a party, let's make sure we invite the neighbors, or at least let them know. Troubleshoot with any kind of VIPs or elected officials or the press. That's what the liaison position or team does. And the last one is our public information officer or public information team. What kind of things might they do? Okay, I'm going to keep us going because we're running short on time. This is the team that might create the announcements, the flyers, issue the press release, advertise, yes, call the media, be posting on social media, How many of us have events and we're posting things to Facebook, or we're doing a quick Facebook Live or a tweet? Good input, Mike. They might also be the ones fielding information about the event ahead of time or with the media outlets during the event, making sure they've got their facts straight. Thank you, Larry. Okay, well, what did you think? Do you see how ICS can be used in kind of an everyday event for your own nonprofit, or for a disaster, or, you know, like the Titanic, it's a management tool? That's what we had. Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, so this was a great exercise, and I think the most important thing that we just did is we went through a real event, and you do this all the time. If you document the things that you do for a real event, like I'm sure that you do volunteer recognition a lot, or there are events that you do that repeat themselves every year. If you start making a list of all of the tasks and then decide which task goes to which person, then you can create that, give each person the list of their tasks, so you don't have to think so hard like we just did. It took a little bit to think, what do I need to do? If you've done it before, you already have it written down, so you give the people a head start on the planning for the next event. And then if they think of something new, because they're not thinking so hard about the basics, they might think of a way to enhance it that can be added to that list for the next time. So you really only have to think really hard once to get everything written down. And then after that, you have, you know, you just pull it out and hand it to people and you're on your way.
Okay. Any questions, you guys? I know that a few of you entered questions in your registration with us of how does this really play out for nonprofits? How might we use this? You know, how do these roles interface with some of our healthcare providers? Did we answer your questions that you came here today hoping to hear? We've got a little bit of time. I am going to go ahead and launch our poll. That's our evaluation poll. And let's see. Okay, so Rita wanted to share something about a collaborative meeting. Give us just a few moments. We do have time for some round robin sharing if others have announcements they'd like to share. Let me just get through what I need to do for my grant funding. So I'm gonna launch the poll, and that is, oh, okay. It didn't do this earlier this morning. I need to do it from my other device. I'm not sure why Zoom makes me do this. So Marcia, can you talk a little bit about the rest of our series coming up, and I will launch the poll, and then we'll let other people make some announcements as well.
For whatever reason, it let me launch the poll.
Oh, perfect. You do it.
Okay, it's launched.
Yay. Okay. So while the poll is going, if you could answer, I think it's 7 questions. That's what our funders want to hear from you, so we can keep offering these programs. And once you're done with your inputs, you'll be able to see back the full screen. What I put up here is that we have more coming in our South Bay series of trainings. We've done our agency emergency planning and today's incident command system. We're running on every other Tuesday or the first and third Tuesdays of the month now through early December. So our next topic will be on continuity of operations planning. And then we have this really wonderful speaker scheduled for October 5th. She's a national expert from National VOAD, Charlene Sargent. She'll be talking on disaster donations management. We will then be doing a session on coordinating nonprofits with local government in times of an emergency. There's 2 of those. One will focus on October 19th, just on Santa Clara County, and the other will I'm sorry, hold on, I see Erica's comment. I'm going to come back to that. I might have set the poll up wrong. I'm sorry. But we're doing government and CBO coordination for Santa Clara County on October 19th. If you're joining us from the other 3 counties of Santa Cruz, Monterey, San Benito, we'll be doing that in mid-November on the 16th. Nestled in between those 2 dates is disaster volunteer management, and that'll happen on November 2nd. And then we'll be offering on the first Fridays of November and December what we call technical assistance open forums. Think of those as like open office hours. You can come and log in with us on a Zoom, and whoever's there will just chat and answer questions, share information. If it's meant for if you are doing your emergency planning for your own organization, and maybe you're kind of hitting a stumbling block or hitting a challenge, and you want to talk it through with Marcia or myself or Luna or Heather, get some ideas, maybe some sample language or some other resources as you work through your own agency's preparedness. So you're welcome to log in on the first Friday in November, the first Friday in December. And that's what's happening there for the rest of our series. We do have community preparedness workshops being offered throughout the 12 County Bay Area. We are the South Bay Hub lead, CADRE is. We have our East Bay partners. You saw a little bit of snippets of their Titanic and their kitchen fire experience examples. They are running something called Prepare You. It kicks off today at noontime, and they're running it kind of like a university course. It'll run every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 1 and for 6 weeks. So it's kind of a lunchtime series, and we all kind of share the same topics, just approach them maybe in slightly different ways with different examples, different speakers. So you're welcome to attend that for Contra Costa Alameda County. There are also workshops in the North Bay and in the East Bay. And Heather's with us today. Heather's running the East Bay series. So if you have any questions about North Bay or East Bay, or West Bay, sorry, workshops, ping us in the chat box and we'll go from there. Let's see, what else do I have for you? This is our regional workshops. We already had the one on resource access last month. We have an access and functional needs focused course coming up for the 12 Bay Area counties on September 14th and 16th. The disaster donations management that I mentioned to all of you. And then there'll be a long-term recovery focus session on November 9th, I think. I can't quite read that typeface, but we can send these flyers out to you as well in the coming weeks. And I talked about our nonprofit technical assistance. So those are up on our CADRE website events calendar. If you just go to the first Fridays, you can click on the event and it'll allow you to register and get some more information there. My apologies for the poll having a wonky choice for question 6. It looks like I did a goof up in setting that up. So we'll take the data as best we can from that. And let me pause. Rita had asked, she wanted to share something. So let me go ahead and let Rita share. And then if any of the rest of you have either a training or an event or a resource you want to share with the group, feel free to raise your hand. We have a few extra moments of time. So Rita, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna and Marcia and everyone. This was great. It's just amazing. I work a lot with the older adult population, and as you were going over the training and the presentations, all these things came into my mind, and how much all these things can help not only those that live in assisted living facilities, but the ones that live on their own. And it's just amazing. So thank you so much. I really enjoy participating in this meetings. I just wanted to open it up to everyone who's interested and who may work with the older adult population. I'm starting on behalf of the Department of Healthcare Services. I'm starting, excuse me, a collaborative team meeting, work group, if you will. And we begin tomorrow. Sorry for the short notice, but whoever's interested, I'm going to go ahead and put my email on the chat window. And this is for those that work with the Medi population. So we're starting our collaborative meetings every month. Those of you who may be interested, I invite you. It's a 1 hour collaborative meeting. I promise we start at 10 and we will end at 11, and it's via Zoom. So if you're interested, just send me an email. I will reach out specifically to a couple of you. But if you're interested, yeah, I'll have my email on the chat window. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your short week.
Yes, and Rita, I noticed that you're in Santa Clara County, is that correct? So what geographic area are you inviting folks? Because we have folks from all the way from Shasta, Tehama to down south in Southern California. So what's your target population of folks to join you?
Actually, great question. The Coordinated Care Initiative is specifically in 7 counties in California, 5 counties in Southern California, San Diego, San Bernardino, Riverside, Los Angeles, Orange County, and then in Northern California, we're in San Mateo and Santa Clara. However, this particular work group that we're starting, we're going to start with the 7 counties that participate in the Coordinated Care Initiative, but it's expanding because there's a transition that CalMedi Connect is going to transition to CalAIM. So as we near the transition period, just want to make everyone aware of the changes that are coming up. To answer your question, it's all of Santa Clara County.
Okay, and others that might be from some of those other communities as well are welcome to join?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Rita.
Of course, thank you, Anna.
All right, any other questions, comments, sharing before we close out today's program? We had a nice kind of relaxed 90 minutes together. We didn't have to rush so much. So any other announcements or sharing from the group? And if not, go ahead and raise your hand if you have something you want to share. Otherwise, I think I'm going to turn it back to Marcia for our closing remarks.
Well, it was a great session, and I'm glad that we had so many people participate, and I hope that you can take this back to your organizations and implement, execute, as we were talking about. If you need help with that execution, make sure you get on those technical assistance calls with us, because we can help make it happen. And we do have samples. So that's everybody have a great day, and we'll see you at the next training.